These Vietnamese children face an uncertain future. During the war, the United States dropped more than 15 million tons of explosives on Vietnam. Special Vietnamese teams have been clearing bombs that didn't detonate. However, they have cleared only a small percentage. Many more bombs and mines lie waiting still. This boy has lost part of his leg. He will suffer from this disability throughout his life. He is one of tens of thousands of victims of the bombs, mines, and shells left by the last war in our country. On the afternoon of April the 7th, 1997, a baby bomb at Kỳ Sơn ethnic minority boarding school in Nghệ An province killed 7 students and wounded 37 others, plus a teacher, leaving schoolmates, teachers, and parents paralyzed by grief.
My eldest granddaughter was killed, my grandson lost a leg, and my third granddaughter still has bomb fragments in her chest. My son Hiến was struck by a pellet bomb that broke his thigh and severed a tendon. He can't do anything. We are so hard off, like...
There were other victims at Kỳ Sơn boarding school. Lương Thị Cáng has a bomb fragment in his cranium. Lo Thị Ôn has a fragment in his abdomen. Vi Thị Hải has a fragment in his cranium. Lương Thị Mến has a fragment in his chest. Lo Văn Na has a fragment in his abdomen. Lương Văn Muôn has a fragment in his eye. Lương Văn Duẩn has a fragment in his lungs. Lo Văn Ma has fragments in his chest. 28 other wounded children have residual shrapnel. A quarter century has elapsed since the end of the last war, yet the war continues for blameless people suffering from countless explosions. According to military experts in the Vietnamese Ministry of Defense, the U.S. dropped 15,350,000 tons of bombs, mines, and shells on Vietnam during the last war. This is 3.9 times the tonnage the U.S. dropped in all fronts of the World War II and 12 times the tonnage the U.S. used during the Korean War. The average density was 119 tons per square mile, or over 600 pounds of bombs for each citizen of Vietnam at the time. Mr. Minh Tâm is director of the Center for Clearing Bombs and Mines. Of the bombs dropped, many never exploded. They lie scattered all over Vietnam in our rice fields, ponds,
rừng núi,
lakes,
sông ngòi,
rivers,
ao hồ,
streams, forests,
làng mạc,
and in our
đồng
cities.
ruộng, thành phố.
According to researchers, more than 2% of the total explosives used during the last war never detonated. 350,000 tons of unexploded bombs and mines lie hidden, waiting. Shortly after the war, the Vietnamese government and the Communist Party began the urgent task of removing undetonated weapons in the provinces of southern Vietnam in order to ensure a peaceful life and restore the country's economy. From 1975 to 1977, during the 3 years immediately after the war, military and local deminers defused and destroyed 3.5 million mines, 7 million other explosives, and 5,500 tons of bombs and other weapons in order to free 100,000 hectares of agricultural land from cultivation. Deminers detonated leaf mines, which were easy to spot by hurling them against a hard object, or they struck the mines with a long stick. Other time, they had no other means of destroying mines. Clearing teams in areas with heavy vegetation covering M6A2 shrimp filler mines, pincer M14 mines, and thumbscrew mines had to use guns or tanks to detonate the mines. Detecting and destroying unexploded bombs and mines is extremely hard and dangerous work. It requires precise skill and extreme caution. There's no space for the least error. Waiting for tomorrow and the next day to do this work only makes the task more dangerous. The soldiers must work in the worst conditions, in the wind and cold, and sometimes all day long in chilly water. After the war, we dealt only with the bombs, mines, shells, and other explosives that were on the surface at a depth of less than a foot. Most of the anti-personnel weapons still have not been unearthed. They threaten to kill at any moment. Mr. Lê Đức Khương comes from Quảng Trị, the province south of the former demilitarized zone or DMZ. I was retrieving sand from the river bottom when a pellet bomb exploded, wounding me. Flesh-shaped arrows penetrated my intestines. My intestines are full of flesh.
Tôi là Hoàng Minh Hồng.
I'm Hoàng Minh Hồng, head of the Mine and Bomb Disarming Team Number 3 under the Bomb and Mine Treating Center of the Demining Command. We're clearing the site for construction of the Thạch Hãn Bridge on National Highway 1A between Huế and Quảng Trị, where the number of bombs the enemy dropped is tremendous. Here there are all kinds of destructive bombs, piercing bombs and flesh-eating baby bombs, and the worst of them all, especially the M79s. During the war, deminers formed the vanguard. Today, in peacetime, deminers still face death every second of every minute. Many deminers have died or been disabled for the rest of their lives in the effort to secure safety for everyone.
Cháu được nhận nhiệm vụ đi rà phá bom mìn thì
I was disarming bombs and mines when a shell went off.
vỡ bên này,
My
bên này.
jaw and teeth were
Gãy
broken.
răng bên trong.
1 year is
Gãy hàm
deaf,
trong, còn
and my sight is weak.
cái tai này bây giờ không nghe thấy, mắt mờ.
Cháu tên là Nguyễn Văn Quyết, năm nay 21 tuổi. Nhập ngũ tháng
I'm
3
Nguyễn
năm
Văn Quyết.
96.
I'm 21 years old. In March 1996, I joined Brigade 229 and disarmed bombs and mines.
Đi rà phá
The
mìn mà
mine
không may
exploded.
bị mìn đổ.
These men have sacrificed themselves for the nation. They set lofty examples for Vietnamese youth to follow. The nation commemorates their sacrifices, which are engraved forever in the memory of their mothers and fathers, their relatives and friends, and us all. The deminers' comrades share the sorrow and continue to show affection to their friends' families. Deminers clearing 17 acres around Thạch Hán Bridge in Quảng Trị province detected 10 armor-piercing bombs, 2 blockbusters, over 1,000 shells of various kinds, and 1,000 baby bombs, mines, and M79 shells. M79 shells and baby bombs are the most destructive explosive devices. The worst of all is the mother bomb. One mother bomb holds up to 600 bomblets or baby bombs. Each baby bomb contains 550 to 600 pellets, each as destructive as a bullet. A baby bomb is many times more destructive than any of the 340 different kinds of anti-personnel mines, all of which are deadly. Time rusts casings on explosive devices, but the detonator do not deteriorate. A detonator touched by another object, such as a plow, a hoe, or a child, can cause a detonator to shift from dormancy to ignition and disaster. Mr. Hồng Xuân Kha is the chair of the People's Committee of Zoling District in Quảng Trị. Citizens in this area have suffered from major accidents. Most of the victims are very young school children. In our community of 6,300 people, 271 people have died, and 544 have been wounded since the war ended. Mr. Trần Lương Thanh is an army officer. Everyone raises rice in this kind of delta area. On the surface of the field, there's rice, but bombs wait underneath in the entrails of the earth. Every year, the farmers strike bombs while plowing, and there are accidents. Every year, a number of baby bombs with flashed arrows explode here. We have land we can't use, making our life that much harder. About 15% of our land, somewhere around 70 hectares, can't be used. So many fathers and sons have died in the rice paddies. That's why fields lie fallow and the poor become poorer still. But no one who is hungry will let his hands rest. Everyone tries to earn a living. Some people collect bomb and shell fragments to sell for scrap metal. Mr. Nguyễn Văn Trần spoke with an interviewer. I've been doing this job for 2 years. There are lots of bombs and shells in this area.
Have there been any explosions here?
A man was killed some days ago.
Aren't you afraid?
I have to have food. I have to live. In addition to official military demining personnel, ordinary people collect and dismantle unexploded bombs to sell the explosive for excavation work and the shells for scrap. They know this is extremely dangerous, but they are poor and don't have fields to till. They have no other way to earn a living and support their children.
My husband was killed. Others don't suffer as much as I do. I left behind unprepared coke, left behind with less than a pittance. What can I do to live? What can I do? I'll suffer forever.
A mine killed Mrs. Tuyet's husband while he was hoeing their rice field. She's in frail health and lives in destitution with 3 small children.
6 tháng đầu năm nay thì
Mr. Nguyễn Minh Nhi is vice president to the People's Committee of An Giang Province in the deep south of Vietnam. In the first 6 months of 1998, 4 explosions killed 18 people and wounded 15 others. Of them, 13 were children. We found 10 tons of explosives while dredging just 30 miles of the Vĩnh Tế Canal. The war ended more than 20 years ago, yet bombs and mines explode every year in An Giang Province because farmers touch them off or because children, too young to know better, mistake the bombs for toys, causing them to explode. Most of the explosions here happen to poor laborers, hand laborers. Because they are poor, they can't pay for medical treatment. Because the wounds are numerous and in different parts of the body, treatment may require many different medical specialists and extended recuperation time. The death rate is high. Over 60% of the victims of bomb and mine explosions are children. An unfortunate child breaks a family's heart. A wounded father brings grief to his children.
Ngày 12 tháng 10 năm 1993, 2 cha con tôi lao động ở trong vườn.
On October the 12th, 1993, my son and I were hoeing the garden when a shell exploded. I lost one arm, one leg, and both eyes. My son lost an arm and a leg.
Còn con tôi thì hụt một tay và một chân.
Năm cháu 11 tuổi, cháu đi học về.
My son was 11 years old. One day on his way home from school, he stepped on a mine at milestone 15 of Nam Lao Road number 9. A soldier was killed. My son was injured. He's 16 now and blind in both eyes. A fragment remains in his head, 2 fragments in his chest, and 1 in his groin. We can't afford to remove them.
These victims become burdens to their families and society. Despite numerous difficulties, the Vietnamese government spends millions of Vietnamese dong a year to assist the victims and their families. But no amount of money can compensate for their suffering.
hoàn cảnh của em hồi nhỏ là bị
When
bom
they
nó
were
bắn
small, I was completely wounded by
chồng
napalm.
thì chồng
I
bị
grew
tai
up and
nạn,
married.
cụt cả chân
My
tay.
husband lost his
Bản
legs
thân
and
tôi
one
nuôi
arm.
chồng và
I
bố
take
mẹ
care
con
of
nhỏ
him
mà
and our four small
hoàn cảnh mà
children
tôi làm
by
nuôi thì
making
đã
grass
không đủ nuôi
brooms,
con.
but that
Cho
doesn't
nên là
give
bố
us
mẹ con
enough
tôi
money,
thất học.
so our four children are illiterate.
Mrs. Bưởi children, aged 7 and 8, help the family make a living. They have no time or money to attend school. What prospects can they expect?
Chồng em mà chứ cụt.
Complaining only makes my husband suffer. I must bear my misfortune alone.
"35 foreign non-governmental organizations and thousands of sympathetic Vietnamese individuals and organizations try to relieve the suffering of victims in Quang Tri province. The Vietnam Veterans of America Fund and Peace Trees supported the construction of a center to educate about mines and to disarm bombs and mines. The German organization Saudi assists with the mine and bomb disarming project at Ái Tử and Cam Lộ as part of the Cam Lộ resettlement program. A British mine consultancy group has begun a $500,000 project to disarm bombs and mines. The Vietnamese government spends hundreds of billions of Vietnamese dong every year to remove bombs, mines, and other explosive devices. However, only 7 to 8% of Vietnam has been safely cleared. Experts predict it will take 30 years and $15 billion to clear our country of the explosives. How can the Vietnamese people live in peace given such conditions? Lady Bolton is a representative in Hanoi of Quaker Service, an American non-governmental organization.
I'll always be haunted by the children I knew in Quang Ngai during the war, amputees, paraplegics, and of course they're grown now if they're still alive. And I'm also haunted by families I've known in the north of Vietnam, one in particular that took me in and let me stay in their home, and they had only recently lost a son to a baby bomb long after the war. And that was just incredibly moving to me, that my country has dropped so many bombs here, and yet we have done nothing so far to help clean them up.
Many localities report heartrending stories, particularly about children.
Bữa đó trường không học, cho nên mấy đứa trẻ vui đùa chơi. Thì lúc
There
đó
wasn't school.
là mới
Our children were
đến một
happy
cái
to
khu
play.
vực
They'd
tí
just
nhà bếp
gone
thì
behind
muốn
the
nhặt được
kitchen,
cái trái bom bi
where
ở
quite
cạnh
by
cái
chance
nhà
they
đó.
found a baby
Thì
bomb.
mới lấy là
They used the
cây,
bomb as a drum,
rễ là chọc
hitting
phá,
it with a
đánh
stick
vào cái trái đó
while they danced.
để tổ chức múa.
The bomb
Nhưng mà
exploded,
không ngờ trái
killing
bom bi
6
này nó bị
children.
nổ. Kết quả
6
cuối cùng
others
qua
lived.
cấp cứu
They
đến
are
bệnh viện
handicapped.
thì 6 em đã bị chết. Còn lại là 6 em hiện còn sống nhưng mà bị tật nguyền. Trong gia đình này là
One child in this family was killed. This child lost one eye. He can't see out to the other side. And his leg was broken. This small girl's leg was also broken.
Rồi em bên đây thì cũng thế, là do miệng bom bi nó nổ rồi là nó bị gãy xương bên đây.
These children, who are 3 or 4, will suffer from wounds of war for the rest of their lives. Innocent children continue to suffer the agony of war. Wherever bombs and mines remain uncleared, destruction and death continue. This scene contains footage shot by the Quang Tri Population and Family Planning Committee on the opening day of a vaccination campaign. The team was filming children leaving school and playing along the path in Hai village of Ling district when Little Hong, aged 9, unexpectedly stepped on a mine.